News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
And I'm Alexis Christoforous. Here are the stories we're following today.
All right, Alexis, and President Trump is set to land in Beijing later today for a highly anticipated summit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Bloomberg's John Tucker joins us with the very latest. John, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Karen. President Trump says this trip primarily is about trade, but he'll also be talking about the war with Iran with President Xi, something he acknowledged it's going to be very difficult to avoid.
He's been very nice about this. You know, in all fairness, he gets like 60% of his oil from Hormuz, and I think he's been very respectful. We haven't been challenged by China. They don't challenge us.
Well, the president is traveling with more than a dozen CEOs. The lineup includes Elon Musk and NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang, who was a last-minute addition. Trump wants China to ink some trade deals to buy American planes, agriculture, and energy. And artificial intelligence discussions may also be on the agenda. Beijing wants, among other things, a longer tariff truce, and Chinese President Xi may try to test the U.S. commitment to Taiwan and seize on any sign of wavering from a president who doesn't necessarily like to stick to the script. I'm John Tucker, Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks, John. And as the president embarks on his China trip, the war in Iran now enters its 75th day. As Bloomberg Middle East reporter Jumani Bersachi reports, many, including the president, thought the conflict would be over by now.
One of the reasons that President Trump pushed back this trip in the first place by, I think it's 6 weeks or so, was because of the conflict that was going on in the background. And so the hope probably from his perspective was that it would be all wrapped up and ready and behind him so that he could approach this meeting with Xi Jinping and address other thornier topics. Unfortunately, the Iran situation is still very much a live situation. I mean, we talk about the ceasefire, even though President Trump has described it as being in a very fragile state. Ultimately, the Strait of Hormuz is still effectively closed. China so far have not played an active role in either military operations or in diplomacy, but in the past couple of weeks, they seem to be flexing a bit more muscle, and the expectation is that China will call for de-escalation.
Bloomberg's Jumana Bersachi says, according to satellite images, oil shipments from Iran's main export terminal, Kharg Island, appear to have come to a standstill over the past several days.
Well, Alexis, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth returned to Capitol Hill to defend the Pentagon's $1.5 trillion budget request. And Bloomberg's Amy Morris reports from Washington.
Hegseth softened his tone from previous congressional hearings as he defended the historic military budget request for 2027. House Appropriations Subcommittee ranking member Minnesota Democrat Betty McCollum asked Hegseth if the Pentagon has a plan B.
We have a plan to escalate if necessary. We have a plan to retrograde if necessary. We have a plan to shift assets. Certainly in this setting, we wouldn't reveal what the next step may be.
The Pentagon's top budget official told Congress the cost of the war has climbed to nearly $29 billion. That's up $4 billion from just 2 weeks ago. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks, Amy. Turning to election politics now, the Democratic primary for a key House seat in Nebraska is still too early to call. With 89% of votes counted in Nebraska's 2nd District, political activist Denise Powell has a lead of about 2 percentage points over State Senator John Kavanaugh, 39% to 37%. Now, the winner will face Republican Brinker Harding, who was endorsed by President Trump. The district draws national attention because Nebraska is one of just 2 states that splits its electoral votes in presidential elections. The 2nd District has gone to Democratic presidential candidates 3 out of 5 times since 2008, a blue dot in an otherwise sea of red. The seat has been held for much of the last decade by Representative Don Bacon, a Republican who's retiring.
Well, now to politics overseas, Alexis, where British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is clinging to power as calls grow from his own party for him to quit. Bloomberg's James Wilcock joins us from London with the very latest. James, good morning.
Good morning, Karen and Alexis. At a senior meeting of cabinet ministers yesterday, Starmer said he wouldn't go without a fight. But more than a fifth of his MPs and junior ministers are now publicly calling for him to stand down after a landslide loss in local elections last week. He met one of his potential challengers this morning, Health Secretary Wes Streeting. People don't expect any fireworks today as the King is speaking in Parliament, but the crisis in Westminster is by no means quarantine's over. In London, James Woolcock, Bloomberg Radio.
James, thanks. A French woman infected in the deadly Hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship is critically ill and being treated with an artificial lung. The outbreak has now reached 11 total reported cases, 9 of which have been confirmed. 3 people on that cruise died, including a Dutch couple that health officials believe were the first exposed to the virus while visiting South America. With the evacuation of all passengers and many crew members now completed, the MV Hondius is sailing back to the Netherlands, where it will be cleaned and disinfected.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Alexis Christoforous.
I'm Karen Moscow, and this is Bloomberg.